Hi, I'm Weston. I love talking about the Rangers, and I'm here to recap Game 46 of the regular season. Rangers lose, embarrassingly, if I'm being completely honest with you, to the Islanders, 6-2 or 6-1. Excuse me. It wasn't a 6-2 game. That would have been infinitely better. It was 6-1. This was almost impressive in a way that we went from winning 4 games in a row pretty convincingly, and I know they were against the Devils, but winning 4 games in a row to then getting shellacked by the Islanders the way we did. And before I get into the video, I want to touch on this because you were wondering, this is a new set. This is a new area. I'm not in that room anymore. I'm in a completely different room that is downstairs of my house. And it isn't an art easel that I screwed a whiteboard into. It's an actual, corner desk that has a set and, actual production value that looks good and not like it was thrown together by a 17-year-old who just wanted a set for videos, which is what the last one was. This one's made by a mature 18-year-old who wanted a set for videos. Can't you tell the difference? Anyway, all the videos are going to be done here now, so this is just the new corner that I thought I would mention because I didn't want it to be distracting. Anyway, on to the actual recap. Igor Shesterkin gets the start for the Rangers, which was easily, the best chance to win. And it felt like he was the only person that showed up tonight. And you might say, Weston, he allowed 6 goals. And I would say, yes, but at least he was trying. Anyway, first period, 17-17. Matt Barzal tripping on Kevin Rooney. Rangers get a power play. Wouldn't do anything on the power play. It was pretty rough. Let me rephrase this. It was a pretty decent power play. We had some good shots and control, we just couldn't do anything with it scoring-wise. And then immediately after the power play, you see, this thing happens in hockey, and I know it's very easy to forget. Once a penalty's over, you get to leave the penalty box. I know, that's really hard to keep track of, but it happens. And that happened. Matt Barzal got out of the penalty box, and no one was there to cover him. Ryan Lingard was kind of in the zone, in his vicinity, but not particularly close, and he said, yeah, I'll take a breakaway, no problem. And he wouldn't score. Lingard had some slashing calls, so that was a penalty for him. And along with that, Shesterkin, fantastic save to keep it 0-0. But another bad thing that I don't think really gets touched upon with the Rangers, we almost have too many players that can do too many things, if that makes any sense, right? Because on the power play, the first power play team, it's Fox, Panarin, Strome, Zibanejad, and Kreider. 2 of those guys are mainstays on the penalty kill. Minka is always there, and Fox is always there. Kreider is on the penalty kill a lot, and then if you get to the second unit on the power play, it's Buchnevich and Trouba. And that is our penalty kill. It's Zibanejad, it's Fox, Buchnevich, and Trouba. That's 9 times out of 10 the starting for the penalty kill. So when you go immediately from a power play where all those guys were just on the ice to a penalty kill, it can get kind of dicey. That's how you end up having a penalty killing team of players like Boteto and Brendan Smith and Brett Howden. And if you're not a Rangers fan and not a diehard one, you're saying, who are they? That is exactly the point. It can get kind of dicey. However, with that said, I thought the penalty kill on this one was fantastic. And towards the end of the penalty kill, Mika Zibanejad was on the ice. He had a fantastic play, takes the puck down to the offensive zone, kind of chills out there for a second, and then just passes it back to Igor Shesterkin because he can puck handle incredibly well. So he just holds it for a second, all the players come rushing back down, and then he clears it, and that killed a good 15 to 20 seconds off of it, which is a huge chunk. That's a sixth of the power play that you're just knocking out with that nice little play. So that was brilliant and fantastic. A little bit later on, right, this was the turning point of the game. Because this is when it went from a close game where it was anyone's game to a blowout. 10:45. Jacob Trouba laid a pretty good hit down on Matt Martin. And then very soon thereafter, Matt Martin returns the favor. And I don't think it was a dirty hit. It had the desired effect, clearly. But it wasn't he should have been penalty. It wasn't a penalty. It was just a very good hit on Matt Martin's part to knock Jacob Trouba out of the game. It's a lower body injury, I believe they said. Or it might have been an upper body injury, And he didn't return to the game. I don't think he'll be gone for very long. It looks like just a one game really shook him up, but they didn't want to chance it, especially with the fact that there are 10 games left and you kind of have to make a playoff push in those 10 games. So I think from that reason they thought they would rest him. And I'm okay with that, but good Lord, this game got bad after he left. So after that, 10-16, Adam Fox, high sticking. So he goes to the box. And this is bad because now 2 of your best penalty killers, 2 of the best 3 defensemen on the team are gone. They're not on the ice for that penalty kill. Trouba, obviously, out. And then now Fox because of that. So I believe the starting defensemen for the penalty kill were Lindgren and Miller, which is good. That's not terrible. It's just not Trouba and Fox, which is, a bummer. Again, another very good penalty kill by the Rangers on that note. And might I just say, Pavel Buchnevich, is there a better penalty killer skater on the Rangers right now than Pavel Buchnevich? He has just been such a surprise this season. Like, offensively alone, he would be a massive breakout player for the Rangers. But when you take into account how good he is on the penalty kill and just how pretty solid he's been defensively, he goes from a very solid player to a player that could turn heads next season with a full 82-game schedule. Lord willing, it's back to normal. And on that note, a little bit later on, 2:18, a very good rush by the Islanders into the offensive zone. Peugeot, perfect pass over to Bailey. It's in. It's 1-0 Islanders with little to no time left in the first period, which was a bummer. And this was sort of the whole blueprint for the game. Catch the Rangers not playing good defensive hockey. This was a pretty rough play. I would have liked Bailey to not have just been able to essentially set up camp so much there that he had a fire going and the 10 pitched right in the blue paint. But c'est la vie, it's 1-0, and that was it for the first period. A brutal first period, might I say, where both teams just had a plethora of hits, and it felt like playoff hockey. It was a very, very high energy, brutal, hit him in the mouth period of hockey, which is kind of how you like it. But the Rangers trail 1-0. And the Islanders this season, this is a very sad statistic, and sadly we only added to it, were 19-2-1 when scoring first, which is bad. And my silly, cute little naive self wrote, time to make it 19-3-1, and oh God almighty, how we wouldn't do that. Second period, right? Maybe we can come out swinging. We would not. 18-22. Letty, nice little play. Over to Brock Nelson. It's 2-0 very quickly on in the second period. Then a little bit later, 14-57. Brendan Smith for tripping. Islanders power play. 14-15. Beauvillier is just left wide open for a one-timer. There was no one near him. It was just incredible, and I understand it was a power play for them, so I understand you're not going to be able to cover everyone closely, but there was no one there. There was just no one. It was awful. It's now 3-0 pretty darn quickly, and it's just rough. Now, soon after that, 12:05, Beauvillier took a hooking call against Colin Blackwell, so the Rangers would get a power play. We wouldn't score on it, but again, the power play was looking pretty decent. And then a little bit later on, 8:56, the Rangers would get one back, right? That was fun. Howden, we have it in the defensive zone. I believe it was Kravtsov that had it. Howden then made a nice little defensive play to get it back to Kravtsov. Kravtsov with a really nice pass over to Brendan Smith. He winds up, takes a big old shot from the blue line, and deflects in off Kevin Rooney. 3-1. Okay. I know it's still, a 2-goal game, but, you gotta walk before you run, baby. One goal will help out a little bit. And then 5:55. This was just irritating. Kravtsov got completely wiped out. I don't know how this was not tripping. I really don't. He went flying. He ate ice. It was just... I don't know how you don't penalize them for that. That was just kind of mind-blowing to me. And that was it for the second period, right? Not a good second period by any means. You got a goal in it, so that's a positive. You scored more than the first. However, you gave up 2 goals to now make it a 3-1 deficit going into the third period. But really, after a horrific first 10 minutes of the period, you looked decent. I thought the momentum was starting to sway back in favor of the Rangers going into the third. So I thought maybe there was a chance, but oh good Lord, there was not. We had a hole to dig out of, and instead of digging up, we dug down, and with incredible speed in the third period. Good glorious God, the third period. Early on, about the halfway mark, 12-16, Beauvillier to Peugeot puts it in front. The defense is just non-existent. Igor Shesterkin overslides it a tad bit, 4-1. A little bit after that, Bailey makes it 5-1, and then it's 6-1 before you know what happened. And that was it. We lost 6-1. And I'm not upset about losing, right? I'm okay with that. But there's a big difference between 3-2, 4-3, maybe even depending on the circumstance, 4-2 loss. Maybe they got the goal on the empty net, when you were trying to tie it up. There's a difference between that close loss and this blowout in the same way that there is a difference between someone politely declining to try a food you made and taking a bite and spitting it back into your face and saying, I will never try anything you make again. You disgust me as a human being. You see the difference there, right? There's a bit of a difference, and I think it should be clear. So this game really is just a wake-up call for the playoffs, right? We're not in a playoff spot. And every team that we are behind in the playoffs, the three realistic ones that I just said, are the teams we could theoretically beat to make that playoff spot, all won. The Islanders won, clearly. The Penguins won, and the Bruins won, which means now we are 6 behind the Bruins, 9 behind the Penguins, and now a crisp, clean 10 behind the Islanders. But this really puts it into perspective how absolutely just mincemeat we would be if we make the playoffs. Because, and I'm not comparing the Rangers to other teams like this when I say this, but you think the Lightning would fall apart like this if they lost their third best defenseman, a defenseman on their second pair, or the Capitals, or the Maple Leafs, or that's weird that I'm saying them as good contenders, or, the Golden Knights. You think they're going to fall apart like this and just completely crumble by a third defenseman? Your third best defenseman going down? No. And again, we're nothing like those teams. We're not competing. We're a team with basically kids that, most of them wouldn't graduate college. Most of them would still be in college. The entirety of the third line would still be in college. And the fourth line, I think outside of Kevin Rooney, Kravtsov and Howden, they'd both still be in college. Adam Fox is still very young. Keandre Miller is still very young. And then Ryan Lindgren is a little bit older than both of them, but still very young. So I understand that. But you lost one defenseman. You lost your third best defenseman, and you got shellacked. And that was it. That was the turning point of the game. When Jacob Trouba went down, the game went down. That was it. And I don't know if you're aware of this. Maybe you've never watched playoff hockey, but it's a lot not like hockey and a lot more like MMA fighting, but on knife shoes in a really, really cold room. You think the playoffs are going to be less brutal than tonight? No, they're going to be infinitely more brutal, infinitely more physical. And you're probably going to lose at least 1 or 2 players in a series. So if you go down, say, 2-1, 2-0, and you lose Trouba for the series, or you lose, God forbid, any of these players, but Fox or Lindgren or Miller or, a player on the top 2 lines like Strome or Blackwell, Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider, Buchnevich. If you lose one of them, the series is over, clearly, because you can't do anything when you lost your third best defenseman. Like, this was an insane wake-up call. And look at the defense. Like, that's another big part. Look at how bad the defense got as soon as Jacob Trouba left the game. You could have replaced it with wet paper towels, and they would have had the same stopping power. It was nothing. Shesterkin got lit up like a Christmas tree. And I thought Shesterkin didn't play awful, and you might say, Weston, he gave up 6 goals. Come on, you can't be that big of a Shesterkin defender. And I would say, look at what he had around him. They couldn't do anything. They were pylons on ice. This was a horrific game for the Rangers. There are 10 left, and now you're going to have to make up 3 games on the Bruins. And granted, you have 2 against them, but this is going to be kind of rough going for the last part of this season. And I understand, it's still very possible that you could make a playoff spot. That being said, losing a game like this, utterly embarrassingly so, it's going to make it a lot harder. So the remaining schedule, because I wanted to talk about this, you have a back-to-back Thursday and Friday against the Flyers. Now, both of those games are in New York, so that is a huge positive, right? We get to have them in our house for those games, so that's great. Then after that, Saturday is an off day. Sunday in Buffalo, or against Buffalo in New York, Monday off day, and then Buffalo again. So you have 4 games that should be easy. You gotta win 3 of the 4. And I know you might say, Weston, you just said win 3 of the 4. I'm saying it again because you gotta get some of these games. You're coming down the final stretch because after that, it's gonna be tough going. Those are 4 games that if you want any shot, you have to win. Looking at it, actually, you probably gotta win all of them if you want any chance. Because after that, you have the Islanders twice, Washington twice, and Buffalo or the Bruins twice. So if you want any chance to make the playoffs, if you want any pathway to stay alive, realistically, you have to win all 4 of those games. And the bright side is they're all in Madison Square Garden. So that does give you an edge because we've played pretty well in Madison Square Garden recently. So that's it. That's all I have for the game. It was quite a watch, to say the least. So that's all I have to say. Thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you all have an absolutely fantastic day. And go Rangers.